Good morning and welcome to Southeastern 16's reaction from games of Wednesday night. We had one involving Alabama's very impressive win over Illinois, and then Texas A&M's not so impressive win over Southern. We got games tonight. We got lots to talk about. Of course, I'm Chris Lee, your host, joined by Max Barr and Blake Lovell. Max, you get the first word today.
Hey,
we got an Alabama skeptic in the podcast here. I think two of us were a little bit more bullish on the Tide. He's not in the mood this morning.
Are you kidding me right now? More bullish on the Tide win. Win 3 days ago?
Yesterday.
Max, am I speaking truth or not?
Yeah. What, 14 hours ago? You were more bullish after they won? They scored 100 points?
Buddy.
Then all of a sudden you jumped on the bandwagon, huh?
You have at it.
All right. Go ahead, Max. My goodness. What a start. This is what happens when you start the show. Like, this is, already off the rails.
Speaking of 100 points, obviously no surprise, or not no surprise, but no secret, I should have said. Mark Sears with a goose egg, shocking, and you only get 15 minutes, 6 points out of Big Cliff, 4 fouls, barely plays, no Chris Youngblood. I mean, we're talking all summer. These are probably 3 of the names we're talking the most of. Mark Sears, Big Cliff, and the big new addition, the winner from Kennesaw and South Florida, Chris Youngblood. They just scored 100 and beat Illinois by 13 with none of them, basically. I mean, come on. I was very, very impressed. And I know Blake is probably going to talk about him a bunch, but LeBaron Philon, I mean, just continues to shine. Unreal. I mean, we can talk about his points and everything, but 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. Very impressive from the Tide last night.
Very impressive and shouldn't have surprised anyone because the fact is we talked about Alabama this summer, and even if you mention all the guys that didn't play well, what did we say? Alabama's the deepest team in college basketball potentially. They are 2 deep at every position, if not 3 deep at multiple positions. And so if you're going to have a game where a couple guys don't play well, this was the team that if they put it all together, which let's call it what it is, they hadn't really put it all together in the past 3 games. If they did, then this is what it's going to look like right here. Because if they're winning a game where they're scoring 100 points and Mark Sears is adding 0 of those, that shows you how good they can be. And we said it, Max, yesterday. I mean, this was the bounce-back spot, the ultimate bounce-back spot for Alabama. We had 0 doubt that Alabama was going to win this game and probably play pretty well. It just seemed like it set up to be a very good spot against an inexperienced Illinois team. Illinois is pretty good, but, they're also playing, again, as we said, they're playing multiple freshmen 30-plus minutes. They're playing a sophomore 30-plus minutes. So Alabama has the edge and experience. They were the better team. And, we also mentioned this was one of those games where I'm like, one of these guys, whether it's Stevenson, Big Cliff, or Grant Nelson, is going to have the game, right? Mm-hmm. And it was Grant Nelson who had the game. 23 points, 8 rebounds, 4 blocks. Yes, everybody's talking about Philon as they should be, but I just thought with the size of Illinois, this needed to be a game where you had one of the big guys for Alabama step up. And what do you know? It's the one guy who has just stepped up time and time again in big spots. So, great performance from Grant Nelson. Great performance from the Alabama Crimson Tide, who some of us, were talking up months and months ago, didn't just jump on the bandwagon here recently when they decided that, they saw him score 100 points and they wanted to get on board. Some of us were saying they could be the best team out there. They hadn't shown it to this point, but if they look like that moving forward, guess what? The Tide are back, baby.
Our first hint about how deep this team could be came before they even tipped it off when they announced Houston Millett was going to redshirt. I mean, you just look at what happened last night, in addition to Sears just taking himself out of the game, saying, hey, these guys are doing great without me. Had an offensive rating of 21 last night. Aiden Holloway steps up. You play the game 5 more minutes, and LeBaron Philon is going to have a triple-double probably. Nelson was terrific. Philon was terrific. they got a little bit out of everybody. Wrightsell gave them kind of a quiet 16. I mean, how scary good could these guys be when all the parts are working at once? Stevenson still didn't shoot the ball. Well, he was 2 for 2, but he was still called from 3. He was 0 for 3 there. I mean, this was one of those games where I think it just had to really scare you. And Alabama, look, they were up 14 at half. Illinois made I'm not even going to say a run. They made it kind of interesting, got it, I think, within single digits, 8 minutes left or so. And with Sears still on the bench, they win it, not going away, but win it without much of a doubt.
Yeah, and when you're watching the game, and I felt it, and then looking back at it and analyzing it this morning also, I felt like Alabama didn't even play their best game. I mean, not even close. I mean, when you look at just some of the production off the bench, Aiden Holloway, fantastic. Needed him to step up in a game where Sears wasn't having it, and he did. So that was big time. But you look at Darian Reed, kind of the big guys off the bench. Darian Reed, Stevenson, Sherrell, Mo D. These guys combined, let's see, 4, 8, 11, 2 of 11 from 3. I mean, do we really want Darian Reed, Jaron Stevenson, Sherrell, and Mo D shooting 11 threes? Like, I just felt like there's so much room for improvement still.
Yeah.
And I mean, that just goes to show kind of your point, Chris, like how good can these guys be? We kind of caught that first glimpse, I think.
Our channel is brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. By the way, do see some Kentucky comments here. We'll get to those a little later. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC to MMA, head to BetOnline today. Get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline. The game starts here. All right, Blake, we've had our fun with you a little bit. Anything else with you that really stood out in this one last night, or maybe implications for Alabama going forward? I think the Aiden Holloway angle is interesting because, I mean, Sears barely came off the floor last year, and it didn't seem to hurt him. But, you have an injury, you have something like that, you're going to be really glad that you got Holloway some time. And as fast as they play, I can't help but think having another point guard who's as good as Aiden Holloway is could make them even more dangerous down the road.
Yeah, I mean, look, stay off social media, because social media is going to tell you something completely different about Aiden Holloway from the Auburn fans, right? Because everybody we know, the jab back and forth between Alabama and Auburn fans, they're going to tell you that this guy, can't be a contributor for the Alabama Crimson Tide. That's not true because, again, this was one of the reasons, Max, we talked about the depth of this Alabama team. We're looking at the guard position and we're thinking, man, look how deep you can go in terms of all the different options. Sure, I mean, hadn't shot it well over the past couple games, but again, this is kind of the point, is that all these guys do not have to all be on the same night. If they are, they're going to score 150 against somebody, but they don't have to be, and they're never going to be probably, where just everyone's going to be hitting shots on the same night. So you need a night like this where Aiden Holloway steps up and hits 3 threes, right? And has an 18-point game. He's probably not going to do it every single night because he's not going to have to do it every single night. Guys are going to go in slumps, just like Mark Sears. If you put a bet at our friends at BetOnline on the chances, the probability, if you'd have set the odds, Max Barr, on Mark Sears going scoreless against Illinois, what would you have set those odds at, right? Astronomical. The payout would have been, bet $5, win $65,000 or something. Like, that's probably what it would have been. So I don't do the math here, but do the odds, on whatever that would be in terms of setting it. But I think that's it, right? It's just you've got all these different guys who can step up. And like we said, if you go back to the conversations we were having during the summer and why we were all, googly-eyed about Alabama, it's just because you looked at it on paper and you said, man, if these guys are as good as we think they can be at the point guard position, shooting guard, like the guard play, my goodness, like who's going to be able to stop these guys if they're all kind of And we weren't even talking about LeBaron Philon very much. That's the thing. Like, we were barely talking about him. And so we were talking about Sears and Holloway and Reitzel and Youngblood and all these guys. We were barely talking about Philon. So if you have games like this where you got an Aiden Holloway stepping up, you got Reitzel, as Chris said, maybe a quiet 16. Yeah, I mean, if these guys are on, there are not many teams in the country that are going to be able to beat Alabama in a one-game series. They have the potential to be that good. As we said, they didn't look as crisp the past 3 games, but this was also what we said yesterday. This was a must-win for Alabama. I don't care what anyone says. They had to win this game because you can't go into the game against Houston on Tuesday staring down the possibility of a 3-game losing streak. Then your mindset completely changes. And I know it's just, it's early in the season, right? But if we're looking up and Alabama is 3-3 heading into Thanksgiving, like, we're going to all kind of look and be like, oh, something's not right here. But that was a must-win. It was a great bounce-back spot. They did exactly what you want to see. And the Tide, I'm sure, in the power rankings next week, going to be plenty of discussion about where they should be. So.
All right, pop quiz. Who got Ken Palm MVP of the game last night? See if you guys can get it.
Oh, my goodness.
I already know it.
Okay.
Oh, my.
Take a guess, Blake Lovell.
I don't know. I have no idea. No clue.
Well, that's the point I wanted to make. Is it's not like if you have to look at it. Was Grant Nelson, who we haven't talked about a lot, which was not intentional. It's just because I feel like we kind of know what we're getting with Grant. I talked about him on my first Team All SEC team.
Well, I talked about him,
which you derided
3 minutes ago.
I know.
We hadn't talked about Grant Nelson a lot. We talked about him all summer.
Let me clear that up. Somebody said in the chat, you guys hadn't talked about Grant Nelson much today. So I think that's what was meant.
Who?
So anyway.
Show yourself.
You look at it. You can read. I know you can't do math, but I know you can read. It's in the comments.
Hey, we were talking about.
There you go.
Come on. I don't know where we missed that, but I just talked about Grant Nelson a few minutes ago. But yes, I agree. He's not only number 1 in your hearts, he's number 1 in your Ken Palms. So, yeah. I mean, we say that sometimes. It's like the same thing. Like, it was the Alabama thing, right? We talked about it, Max. It's before they lost the game to Purdue, or like, what was it, a couple weeks ago? We're like, we can't do this with Alabama, where we just look at them and don't say a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
You can't just do that because we think they're so good. And like, you do that sometimes with like Nelson and players like that too. We do the same thing, where we're like, we just fail to mention sometimes. We're like, oh yeah, just at 23, 8, 4, whatever. I mean, it's just a Grant Nelson game. Come on.
Yep.
So,
Sears putting in work has pointed out in the comment. Max, we had a pre-show conversation, and if people don't know what he's referring to, you saw it on Twitter.
Yeah, shooting like 700 practice shots up until 3 a.m. last night. Mark Sears, I mean, what a guy! This team, Chris, to kind of further your point, how we like to say it was the so and so game. It was the Denzel Aberdeen game, or whatever you want to say. A random player's, that was their game. It's going to be a different player every time. And next time it's going to be the Big Cliff and Reitzel has 5 threes game. And then the next game it's, Mo Diabate comes off the bench and is a perfect 6 of 6 with all these, it's just every game it's going to be a different so-and-so is the one that, lifts them up above.
What's your biggest concern with them right now? I mean, okay, they're 47 in defense in Ken Palm. I think they're so good offensive, they just had to be respectable. And I bet you they'll get better with Big Cliff being in there more. There goes Blake smirking. But I've got something in mind, and I think it's maybe shot selection. As you guys mentioned earlier, maybe you want to get a few guys shooting a few less threes. But I think other than that, the rest is going to take care of itself.
Blake?
Oh, he's got something. He's just
yep. I'm not saying nothing.
My concern is that they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My concern is that they're 7th, maybe 8th, according to my math in the SEC in adjusted defensive efficiency, Chris. That's my concern.
Okay.
That they're behind that bad defensive team, Kentucky, that you continually mention. So, yeah, that worries me a little bit. Not gonna lie to you.
I'll just sit and take it now and bring it up later.
The 8 seed, Alabama Crimson Tide. You heard it here first. No, I'm not concerned. Come on, let's not get ourselves. Like you said, we have our fun here. Just do what you do, right? Put that on a shirt. Do what you do. Just go out and outscore the other team. That's all you got to do, Chris. That's my motto. You know this. Outscore the other team by a point. That's all you got to do in this game. So, Alabama will be fine. When Youngblood comes back, they'll be better defensively.
Yeah.
They'll be better offensively. Like, I'm telling you, we talked this guy up, and you just don't understand. Like, and Nate Oates talked this guy up. Like, he is going to make a big difference. I think defensively, he just brings a toughness, a physicality to him. And, I think that'll matter in terms of their overall defense. And I think they'll be fine in the front court. Like, they got enough big guys in there in the SEC where you're going to get a lot of plays at the rim. So I think that's the thing, right? Like, we're not looking for Alabama to be a top 5 defensive team in the country. They're already double better than what they were last year, right? They finished 111th last year in the old Ken Palm defensive efficiency metric. This year, they're 47th. If they finish 47th this year, another Final Four. Look out.
Well, and they've got, Big Cliff didn't have a great game last night. They've got him sitting back. Like, in some games, there's going to be nights they need him more than others. And like, they went out and hit the portal with what they really, really needed. And that was Youngblood and Big Cliff. And, they don't – Youngblood hasn't played a minute yet, and Big Cliff was on the bench for part of last night just because it wasn't going well and didn't really need him because of Grant Nelson. So –
Don has never seen Chris Youngblood play. We did an interview with him over the summer, but I forget who we were talking about. I think it was yesterday. We were talking about he's just a winner. I forget who it was. We were talking about someone being a winner, but that's the literal definition of Chris Youngblood. You go through his career and look at the team's record before he plays, and then look at it after. It's night and day. The guy he wins everywhere he goes. Great player.
Well, and he was the American Conference Player of the Year last year. So
great player.
Yeah.
So they had 2 Conference Players of the Year last night that combined for 0 points.
Yep.
And they still won going away.
All right. Anything else on Alabama?
I mean, we spent 20 minutes on Alabama.
Yeah.
So we can probably hold on. Before we move on, Big Baller Brad wants to, again, we just said this a minute ago, but Mark Sears in the gym at 3 a.m. this morning. Guess what we were doing at 3 a.m. this morning?
Not in the
gym. We were not in the gym. No, we were not.
Nah.
So that's all right. Mark Sears, he'll be back. I can feel pretty confident saying that I don't think he's going to go scoreless in the next game or any other game this season. That's my bet, Max. If I had to put one for the season long, I'm going to say Mark Sears scores a point in every game the rest of the season. So,
really going out on a limb there.
Speaking of scoring points,
Max, what do you have to say?
Difficult times
here
for this team. The Texas A&M Aggies, 71-54 over Southern. Don't let the score deceive you here, because this was not a game that was it was not a blowout by any means. Let's not kid ourselves here. Anytime Chris and I are on the same page, something's up, because Max Barr, the ultimate Texas A&M apologist here, the Aggies at one point trailed by 16 at home to the Jaguars of Southern. And that's not ideal. The biggest margin in this game was simply A&M winning 71-54, but it was a pretty close game down the stretch. A&M finally pulled away there towards the very end. Max, what would you like to say about the performance from the Aggies here?
I don't know why everyone is acting surprised. This is exactly what we expected. A team that looks like they can beat Ohio State by 20 and then lose to Southern. I mean, this is classic A&M. We got them right where we want them. Aggies, got them right where we want them going into this gauntlet of a stretch. Now, kidding aside, I mean, they could not hit a shot in the first half whatsoever. The shooting, that's the problem, is you're going to get 29 offensive rebounds. Some games you're going to hit 9 threes, and it's going to look amazing like it was against Ohio State, and you're going to cruise. And then some games you're not going to be able to hit a 3 to save your life, and you're going to miss half your free throws, and it's going to look terrible. That is exactly what I expected from this A&M team. That's exactly what they're giving us. Business as usual in College Station.
Let me tell you how bad this game was.
It was horrible.
We had a text going in which we were debating, like, how do we create a metric that tells you how bad a game this was? And Blake had to shield his eyes because it involves simple math. And
Folks, listen, I wish I could pull up the thread, and actually I may do that, because if you want to see Chris's explanation for how to mathematically come up with this score that he has come up with here, my head was spinning. Because I've never seen an equation like this. Like, this is some actual Albert Einstein type stuff here, all right? Professor Lee at work. Because this was, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I don't think it's math. I think it's something else. Like, it's some kind of advanced, I have no idea.
Well, we got to explain it.
Here's what it is. It's a way to quantify how ugly a game is. And this is my idea. We can come up with it together. You take the box scores, you combine them for both teams. I think any foul above 40 is a point. So you have 45 fouls in a game, that's 5 points. Every field goal that takes you under 40% that you miss gets you a point. And every free throw that you miss under 65 gets you a point. This is simple. You can do it with the spreadsheet in 10 seconds.
We're going to let Chris do it.
I can do it. I can handle this. And I think maybe every unassisted field goal, like if you got a bunch of field goals and they're not assisted, maybe that counts. I don't know. I just think we can have some fun with, we call it the brick score or whatever, the bully ball score. And like keep tabs on who had the worst game of the year. Like what was the ugliest game we see? We have a leaderboard. Yes. You know, we could.
It's got to be like the
games.
Brick score.
Yeah, I wonder, like, is this going to be the worst game we've seen all year?
Well, it's worst.
Simple idea.
You guys just put that word on it. You think that's bad basketball. Some people enjoy watching that.
Yeah, well, some people enjoy taking a swim in 30-degree water.
Okay, enough A&M. We got games tonight. Oh, there
All
we
right,
go.
So here we go. On the screen here, I apologize to those of you on the audio, but here it is. Here's what I'm reading last night at like 10 p.m., okay? From Chris Lee. Here's the official text, all right? Like, maybe every foul over 20 is a point, and then find some system to score bad shooting. Maybe take the combined box score for both teams, reward a point for every foul over 35 total, then every missed shot over 50 total, every missed free throw over 15 total, something like that, or maybe every field goal that causes your percentage to fall under 40 or something like that.
You just go into panic when math's involved, don't you?
What in the world does this even mean, Chris? Okay.
It means when you suck at basketball, you rack up points. That's what it means.
Oh, my goodness.
When the offense calls you to want you to shield your eyes,
Listen, the final word right here from Mother Carol. If she even says this, okay, I did all that calculating. I'd miss the game. She's right. Missing the entire game doing all that calculating. All right. So Chris, Max, and I have made the executive decision. Yes, as Bert said here. We always bring the receipts here at Southeastern 16. We're going to let you handle this. All right?
Yes.
Okay.
The buzz score, you are in charge of the buzz score. Is that what we're calling it? The buzz score. So, there you go.
Is it the buzz score or the kill your buzz score?
Oh, gosh. We got games tonight.
Oh, my. Do we? Or are we going to be doing mathematics? Advanced geometry. All right, let's talk about the games tonight. Sorry, Texas A&M. I mean, this was supposed to be a game where we really didn't spend much time talking about it, but I don't think there's a lot else to add on that. Remember, though, the gauntlet starts for A&M. Oregon, Creighton, potentially Alabama in that tournament. Wake Forest, Texas Tech, Purdue. I really hope we get Alabama, Texas A&M. That's what I'm rooting for. Like, that's what I want. So I'd like to see, I mean, how many times they play in, let's see. They only play once in conference play. So it wouldn't be like you're not getting a 3-game series unless it's in the SEC tournament. So it's okay. Give us the second game between the Tide and the Aggies.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There you go. All right. Games tonight. Max, begin with Tennessee, Virginia.
9:30 Eastern, late tip, prime time slot for the Vols and the Cavaliers. What is
probably
the
start
spread
later
on this?
than that, by the way.
Yeah, it's probably going to start later. It was at 11 or 12, I believe the spread was out for Tennessee. I don't know. I think that's a little much with how slow Virginia plays. We were talking about this game yesterday, Blake, and how it's same Virginia. Just because Tony Bennett is in there, they're still doing the same exact thing. And they can shoot pretty well. I'm not going to lie. They've got McNeely. They've got TJ Power from Duke. Rhodey's finally healthy from St. Thomas. They got some shooters. They could spread Tennessee out if they hit their first few shots. But just like that Louisville, geez, I pronounce it wrong every time. Whoever makes the first few shots, I think, is going to really be the team that just plays comfortable. If Tennessee falls behind and they're slugging through the mud trying to come back on Virginia playing a snail's pace, that could be pretty ugly. But if Tennessee comes out and is playing with the lead, I don't think Virginia's got the horses to mount a comeback on that defense. So I think the first 5-10 minutes are really going to be important for this game.
Stylistically, if you want to talk about a contrast in games, like before this game, keep in mind Baylor and St. John's play before Tennessee, Virginia. Like, I think you're going to see a completely different game in terms of the style here. And of course, the winners, losers will meet each other there. And that's why we kind of say wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee starts a little late in this game. But I think that's what's interesting to me. Like, this Virginia team, Tennessee in a neutral court, sometimes that can, we've seen in the past, even as good as they looked at times, sometimes just have some of those games offensively. We said that about Tennessee. And against a team like Virginia, it can always happen, like you said, just based on the fact that you're expecting fewer possessions, all that kind of stuff. But I tell you, though, I look at this game and I still think Tennessee is just considerably better than this Virginia team. And I think this is one where you really would like to see Tennessee sort of exert its dominance here against a team like Virginia, because, again, I just don't think we talk about all the offensive issues at times for Tennessee, but they've looked, like you said, Max, they scored 103 against Austin Peay, who I think is a pretty good team at that level. And I think from that standpoint, like, this is not Virginia defensively. You know what they're going to do in terms of, the principles of how they play defense and all this other stuff. But offensively, they could get hot from three. And that's the only thing for Tennessee, I think.
Yep.
Just defend the three. And if you do that, you're going to be in great shape here. And I think that's it. Like, if Virginia comes out and goes, 6 of 27 from three, Tennessee's winning this game by 25 or more. And I'm not even joking. I think that's probably what happens. Like, Virginia's got to hit threes here. And so, but guess what? What's Tennessee have? Perhaps no offense to the Kentucky fans, with Otego-Oweh and Lamont Butler, but either one of the best duos guard-wise on the perimeter defensively in Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Mashack, going up against a Virginia team that needs to score from three. I like that setup for the Vols here.
You remember how last year slow teams really gummed Tennessee up? I don't think this team – this team plays a little slower, but I'll kind of be interested to watch that tonight, because that's obviously the ultimate team that could do that to you.
Yeah.
Is the new UVA coach playing a snail's pace like Bennett did? They are currently 362 out of 364. There are only 2 teams in the nation that play slower. So, yeah, they might even be playing slower than Tony Bennett. I don't even know if that was possible, but yeah, snail's pace.
Yeah, and offense, they're grinding at almost 20 seconds of possession on offense.
It very slow.
Like, just look at the points distribution.
What they were last
right?
year, too.
Like, points distribution for Virginia. They get 41.6% from two, which is 323rd nationally, right, Max? I think I'm looking at the right numbers here.
Yeah.
14.2% from the free throw line, 320th nationally. 44.2% from three, 13th nationally. So, like, it's pretty clear what they're going to do, right? I mean, it's just, there's not a lot of mystery here. So, again, they're a top 10 3-point shooting team in the country in terms of percentage. So, I think that's kind of what this comes down to. Like, what happens here? Like, I think that's what, defensively for Tennessee, I think it's all about that. Because, like, Virginia's not, they're not like Alabama, right? They're not going to shoot a ton of threes. Like, they're not going to shoot 35 plus or anything, I don't think. But it's just they're efficient in terms of the looks that they're able to get. And, some of that, they went 14 to 25 against Villanova. So, that's going to up your percentages a little bit. But again, to me, as Chris said, we did bring that up with Tennessee. I don't remember what game it was, the Louisville game, I think, where we're thinking, okay, the kind of teams Tennessee has played well against in recent years, especially last year, got to remove Dalton Connect. It was just, by the way, my goodness, Dalton Connect. What a stud this guy is. But, you remove that, and yes, they did struggle against the teams that really tried to slow it down, make you play in the half court. But if Tennessee can get out and go here, get some easy looks offensively, do their thing, and just guard on the perimeter, which has been one of their biggest strengths, period. That is one of the biggest strengths of this team. I think they'll be fine here.
Real quick on Tennessee before we move on from them, Ryan Shumpert, who I go to for a lot of my Tennessee news, put out a tweet 2 days ago, injury report from Tennessee's practice. Cam Carr has not practiced this week with a left hand injury. JP Estrella has been non-contact, working off to the side with a left foot. Chaz Lanier had a bad migraine this week that kept him out, but he should be good. And Dubar has been a full participant, not sure if he'll be active or not, though. So nothing major, but a few little bruises and bumps for Tennessee. And hopefully we might be getting our first look at Dubar.
Nice. That would be – I really can't wait to see him play and what he brings. Because, like, he was top 3 or 4 on lists of their parts in the summer, was he not?
Super efficient offensive player. Yeah.
By the way,
they've done fine without him.
25 or more, I said earlier. I'd like to say, I'm going to say 18 or more, Willie. I agree. Okay. 25 is a little much because of how slow this game could be. 25 may be asking for a lot. So if Virginia's not hitting threes, maybe the most I go is 18. All right, and even that may be too much because of the lack of possessions here. So I appreciate Willie keeping me in check there on I get a little excited sometimes. All right, what else we got? We got Vanderbilt, Nevada.
Chris, big one.
I think that is debatably the most interesting game of the night because I think Tennessee's going to be pretty good either way. I mean, yes, Tennessee struggles in spots. They're going to have a couple of clunker games every year that make you question everything about them. But what happens then? They always bounce back. Vanderbilt, depending on when you watch them, I mean, you could walk away one night thinking they are really a team that you're sleeping on, and you could walk away another night after any given half of basketball thinking they are so fundamentally flawed that it's just not going to work in a league that's brutally tough. And they play tonight a team in Nevada that is what they are not, which is really, really big across the board, and a team that really likes to slow you down. Now, those are two things that I think number 1 and 2 on my list of things that are going to give them problems. So, like, if they handle this really well and they win against a Nevada team that's probably NCAA tournament caliber, I think we have to raise our expectations for Vanderbilt a notch. If they don't, then I think everything we were concerned about – I mean, I say don't. It's not that simple. Like, if they lose by 2 points and they look good, we can come out saying, hey, this is a pretty good team. But if they lose double digits and all the things that we think could give them problems, and that's probably a yellow or a red flag at least.
Yeah, you're right with the height. I didn't know Nevada was the 3rd tallest team on average in the nation. and they're the 5th most experienced. So they do have that going for them. But one thing I'll say, Chris, that I lean towards Vandy in this is Nevada's shooting 49% from 3 through 4 games. I mean, that is unsustainable. I don't care who you are. And now they play their first game not at home. What do we've seen that multiple times just in the past week. Teams' percentages fall off a cliff in that first game away from home. Nevada's been leaning on the 3 ball lately, and they don't shoot a lot of them. So if they're not falling and they're trailing for the first time this year, I don't know. I kind of like Vandy here.
I think this is a tough test for the Commodores. I think it's just the size that Max has brought up with Nevada, the experience. I mean, this team they're kind of the complete package if you really think about it. At least so far. And again, what is that saying? Like, they've not really beaten. They beat Washington. You know what I mean? They've beaten some solid teams. But I think this is, again, though, I think when you look at the way kind of this thing has been going for Steve Alford there, like, to me, this looks like one of those teams that they're coming off a 26-win season, right? And I think that momentum is there now for that program. And so I think it's a tough spot for Vanderbilt, like you said, just because I know you guys are both on maybe the Commodores here, but I just think it's that first big game. And the one thing Max said, though, I don't know if that shooting percentage is sustainable. And so if that comes back a little bit, it's a close game. But I don't know. I think it's one of those, like we've said this before with some teams in the SEC. You want to see it before maybe you're going to go all in on it. I just feel like with the overall experience and the size advantage that this Nevada team has in this game, I feel like it's probably theirs to lose. But at the same time, we said it, and Chris always jokes about Vanderbilt maybe being my team because they're going to offensively, they're going to put you in some tough spots. And if they come out playing well offensively, look out. Because I think they can win games like this and beat even better teams probably if they're looking crisp offensively. They're taking care of the ball. It's just defensively, I don't know. Like, I just don't know yet, and I think I want to see it in a game like this before I'm completely sold. But hey, if they win this one, I'm all in on the Commodores. So
I think they've got to keep McLaughlin out of foul trouble tonight. That's been an issue. He's the closest thing they got to a post presence, and he's 6'7". He's that undersized guy. He's blocking a lot of shots, getting a ton of rebounds, but like he's doing that against Maryland Eastern Shore and not Nevada. So it's a step up in competition tonight. But I was if you haven't seen them yet, I was watching Alabama last night thinking, man, Vandy, Alabama's kind of one to circle just on the fun index because, like, that's going to look like an NBA All-Star game when those two teams play. Up and down the floor. And look, Alabama's better at that kind of game than they are. But just, like, for intriguing to watch for a while, throw back to, 1980s NBA All-Star game kind of style. That's going to be fun. That's kind of the way they play.
Yeah, I got 2 quick things on Vandy before we move on from them. Looking at the VSiN, Vegas Sports Information numbers from the action reports, the spread's down to 2.5. Okay, this thing opened 4.5. There's 46% of the bets on Vanderbilt, but 76% of the handle. That basically just means there's a good amount of money on the Vandy side coming in. And then another point, 3-Point Sniper brings it up here. The Mountain West, if you remember back to some of our NCAA tournament streams, and we would go through our picks, every Mountain West team, I just nope, picking the other team automatically, and it worked out fantastic. So that is one little edge there. Is the Mountain West does not perform well in these outside tournaments, outside the Mountain West.
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know either. I have no idea what to expect tonight.
I don't either.
But
I'm excited.
I don't know. Yeah, well, we'll see. I think it's a close game. I just think I want to see it from Vanderbilt against a team like this. I think Cal's one thing, Nevada's another. I think you're talking about, again, there are high expectations for this Nevada team this year, and so. But like you said, fade the Mountain West, never a bad idea in these spots. So. Surprised that number is as low as it is.
Did you guys see
Just
what
talking
Steve
about this
Alford did
game.
last week?
Oh, go ahead.
Did
No,
you
what do you
guys
do?
see what he's the fourth coach in the history of college? No, I'm sorry, the second coach in the history of college basketball to win 100 games at 4 different stops.
Wow. I was just gonna say, just having this little break down the game here. Now I'm more excited to watch this game. I really want to see this thing now.
All right.
When is it? 7:30? 6:30?
Yeah.
By the
Willie.
way, we gotta give a shout out to the super chat here.
Well, hold on, Chris.
Okay,
we'll
get
to
there
it.
later.
Let's just
All right.
Don't worry. We're gonna get back to it. Let's just quickly get through this because we're already going a little long here. Let's see. Quickly, Max, Texas, Syracuse, and anything else we want to add there. I mean, Texas is a pretty sizable favorite here, but thoughts?
Yeah. So I've watched a few Syracuse games. I watched the whole Colgate game. Each one's been a nail biter. Thought we would be getting, not we, I don't know why I say we. Thought Syracuse would be getting more from Chris Bell and more from Donnie Freeman. It's literally been Eddie Lampkin. We need you to play 40 minutes and we need you to have the ball in your hands every possession or we're lost. And it's just JJ Starling trying to create something. The team's very discombobulated right now. There's not really much of a sense of identity of where you go when you need to. They've had 3 straight close games against 3 straight not good teams. I will say, if there's one angle that Texas might get a little exposed, is the fact that Syracuse is going to force feed Eddie Lampkin nonstop, and Caden Shedrick doesn't have the best post defense. But other than that, I mean, I give the edge everywhere to Texas. Syracuse has not looked good.
Yeah, I like this spot for Texas, so we know what's going to happen. I said I was curious about the one for Vanderbilt. I like this spot for Texas. Probably guaranteeing a Vanderbilt-Syracuse double win here. But I just, like this is a game Texas shouldn't lose. That's kind of the way I look at it. It's like, if you're going to be as good as some people think you can be. Remember, I was the high man on Texas. Tremont Mark, we got an update yesterday. Closer to a return? Not yet. But what was it, Max? He was cleared for 5-on-5 or something yesterday.
I didn't see it, actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the update. So getting closer to a Tremont Mark debut for the Longhorns, but I think this one sets up well for Texas when you look at it. The way they played so far, Trey Johnson's been fantastic. Like you said, Max, curious what the front court looks like in this game, but I think, like I said, Texas should win this game. This is one, though, where like if this was close or they lose or something, then I think you're really like, maybe this is maybe there's some things that they're going to have to really fix before. Because, like we said, what do we know, right? They played 3 games in a row against teams that they should have beaten by 40, and they basically did. So now's a big step up. Hadn't played Ohio State. That was a close game. I just think they're better than Syracuse, but we say that about these games, right? And it goes back to what we just talked about with the Mountain West. Like these neutral court games, you just, early in the season, you just don't know. Because some teams come out and just can't shoot. Some teams just, it's different. And so, we'll see how it plays out. But I think Texas is in a good position here.
Blake, I don't want to do it, but I'm getting that feeling right now. I'm getting the feeling. I've had it a few times. It's the don't even play the game. The winner's already been decided feeling. I had it with Houston and Auburn. Why? Houston had already won the game before. Why even play it? It's already over. Houston won. Nope. And then it happened with Purdue and Alabama. Why even play the game? Alabama's so much better than Purdue. Look what happened. I've got that feeling about this game. Why even play it? Texas already beat Syracuse. No. Game's already over. No. This is not good. Sound the alarms. Sound the alarms.
Max, if people hadn't seen Eddie Lampkin play, how do you describe that?
He's awesome. I love Eddie Lampkin. I
didn't realize he was at Syracuse.
He's been a couple places.
Yeah, he has.
I mean, he's their whole team right now. They literally feed him on every single possession nonstop. And he's just been feasting on these low major competitions. So he's going to have some size on him this time. First time all year. So shut down Eddie Lampkin, you win the game pretty much.
Don't remind Florida fans. Because he was big in that tournament game last year.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Quickly, we're going to move on. We're almost wrapping up here. Other games, and I just don't think we really have a lot to add on these. South Carolina Mercer, Oklahoma, East Texas A&M, not to be confused with Texas A&M Commerce, Ole Miss, Oral Roberts, Max, 30 seconds. We're going to buzz you on these. Like, any additional thoughts? I don't have. I mean, they're all basically 20-point or more favorites in these 3 games. So,
yeah, I actually took South Carolina spread against Mercer. It's that classic bounce back spot after you play a good team. They just got throttled by Indiana. Colin Murray Boyles just had the worst game of his career. Just so happens that Mercer is the 5th worst team nationally at defending 2-point shots. They don't play anybody over 6'8". I think Colin Murray Boyles has a massive bounce back game. We might see a 30 bomb from Murray Boyles here. Would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, this is not Paul Mills's Oral Roberts. They have taken a few steps down since he went to Wichita State. If you're wondering, East Texas A&M, who was that was Texas A&M Commerce until a couple of weeks ago. That's all I've got.
well, yeah, I think Ole Miss to me is an interesting one here. Oral Roberts is not great, but I think we've seen some ups and downs so far from Ole Miss. Playing a close game against Grambling.
Yep.
Look good against Colorado State, but I'd like to see them have a convincing win here, just to kind of feel a little bit better about the consistency. So, all right.
And Blake, you mentioned that real quick, but they got to look ahead to BYU and Louisville next 2 games. So you don't want to trip up right before that.
No, you don't. I'll tell you this though. I'll tell you who's not tripping up. $20 super chat.
Hey,
from our guy here.
Nice.
Max, Chris, and Max, Blake, and Chris. That's the right order, I think. I think that's the right order. Hadn't had a chance yet. However, wanted to show appreciation for everything you guys do. Keep up the great work. Love tuning in each morning after work. Hashtag SC16, SEC, and the BBN. The Big Blue Nation represented here on the super chats. So,
nice.
What a super chat. We appreciate that. Tuning in after work each morning. Again, we pretty much are going live every morning these days. Tomorrow's TBD. I think, actually, Max, we had discussed that. I think we are going to have to do it tomorrow morning.
We'll be here tomorrow morning.
But it may have to be a little bit earlier based on my schedule. We'll keep you guys updated on that. So I wanted to circle back around beyond that because you had a question earlier too about, again, the right order, Max, Blake, and Chris. He knows what he's doing here. I have to know if you've seen the Randolph Childress recent Kentucky comment. What are your thoughts on it? I know we talked about Kentucky a lot, but wanted to bring it up. So he said on the field of 68 last night, I didn't see the full comment. I just saw the little snippet of him basically saying he's bringing up the fact that Kentucky only has one good win besides Duke, I think. So you might have to give us a little bit more on what exactly he said beyond that, Devin, because I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw that comment posted around on Twitter. I mean, to that I would say, I mean, they've beaten everybody on their schedule. Like, I mean, what else do you want them to do, right? I don't know I don't know what to say to that. They played 4 games. I mean, it's not like they're coming out. Who else in college basketball has come out and played the top 4 teams in the country in the first 4 games or something, right? I mean, they beat Duke on a neutral court. That's that's their best win so far. But, like, who else has multiple just outstanding season-defining wins so far, Max? There's not a lot of teams out there that have that, right? Like, usually you have teams that have played a game that's probably tough. Some maybe played a couple games, but it's not like everybody's out here just scheduling 4 straight opponents, power conference opponents to start the season or anything. So I don't put a lot of stock into that. I mean, I don't know.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're 4-0 against the spread too. So yeah,
So
I
you're
mean,
saying
Get in line. There's a lot of teams that haven't, taken on world beaters every night. They played Duke. They beat them. Lipscomb's not a horrible team. Wright State's not an awful team.
But I mean, you can make that comment about a team like, I don't know, say we were just, I don't mean to pick on them, but we were just talking about
Texas.
Yeah, sure, Texas. A team that hasn't, played anyone really. There's a million teams you can pick on. Kentucky, not only did they beat Duke on a neutral, but when they played Wright State, when they played Bucknell, 100-plus points, maul them by 30. You play Lipscomb in the bounce-back spot where you might be sleepwalking after the big win. Crush them by 30. I mean, what else do you want? What do you want them to score 150? What do you want from these guys? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, without the full comment, I don't know what else to add. Like, it's just, it's a talking point. Like, I get it. I mean, because it's the same thing we talked about in Power Ranks on Monday. Like, it's not that different. I mean, the question is still, like, are we too high on Kentucky just from what we've seen so far? And my argument's been I don't think we are. I think they just look really good. So, sure, they haven't played 4 straight top 10 teams, but I think if you just watch them play, which, we try to do our due diligence here and watch every team play as many games as we can, I would like to think at least we have a pretty strong opinion on the idea that I don't think Kentucky's going to miss the NCAA tournament or anything. I think they're pretty good. So could they lose some games here? Of course they can. Well, could they lose the Zags? Sure. Could they lose a road game at Clemson? Sure they could. But, I mean, it's just, we have 4 games to go off of. And so, I think people just, we get a little excited early in the season. So are some of our takes that we've had in the first 3 weeks of November going to look terrible, 3 or 4 months from now? Of course they will. But we can only talk about what we've seen and what's in front of us. So Kentucky's look good. That's really all I don't, again, I'm not like, because I don't know what else he said. So, but just based on, the question, what else are they supposed to do? So
I don't know if they'll be, tell me if you guys agree with this. I think this is the safest way to view them. I don't know that they'll be elite, but I think their chances of being anything less than good are just about zero, because the roster is a known commodity. These guys have played a ton of basketball. They played it at a good level. They are deep. They are well coached. Now, where the problem comes is they shoot the 3 really well, and on any given night, even good shooting teams can go cold. So maybe that's the pitfall. But I think the chances they are going to be mediocre are just about zero. So people can hate them all they want. They can pick on the schedule. Good luck to you. This is a really good basketball team, and maybe a great one.
Yeah, I don't know how much I agree with it, but I definitely you can't argue against it. But I've seen some takes that are saying, so far, if you're just based on what we have seen with our eyes and you take out any, preseason bias, is Kentucky the best team in the nation right now? Like, I've seen those arguments and those tweets posted the past few days. Like, that is 100% a conversation that is warranted here. And whether you like it or not. So,
all right.
We got games tonight. Come talk to us tomorrow about them.
TBD on when we're going to be going live tomorrow. I'll have to discuss with these guys. We've got a scheduling conflict tomorrow morning, but we may go earlier, we may go later than usual. Just keep that in mind for tomorrow. We will keep you guys updated. I guess the best way, subscribe, turn on the notifications. You'll know exactly when we go live if you turn those notifications on. So just again, I wouldn't expect a 9 a.m., 8:30 stream tomorrow. I think it's going to be adjusted a little bit, so just keep that in mind. If you want to tune in, we'll recap Thursday's action. We'll talk about Vanderbilt's win against Nevada. We'll talk about Syracuse's win against Texas based on us just completely. I'm saying the opposite, Chris, because I said I think Nevada is in a better spot. So we know how this works, all right? We'll talk about Thursday's games, and then we'll preview the weekend action as well. So
some good Friday games, too.
Our man Blake, I think he barely sleeps these days. But,
we sleep in May.
We sleep in Max. We'll have us covered either way. I have a feeling Max and I are going to wake up ready to talk basketball one way or the other.
Well, hold on a second. Hang on a second. You're going way too far with this. We're still doing this tomorrow. Like, I'm going to do this with you guys. I'm just
reassuring the audience that we will be here in some form or fashion.
You're trying to squeeze me out. That's what you're doing. I see what you're doing here. You want to make this anti-Kentucky, all about the Tide. Chris is all in on the Tide. Now he wants to talk about Alabama. After they score 100 against Illinois, he's ready to talk now. He didn't have a lot to say before this. So, Alabama fans, it's exactly what you want here from Chris Lee. This guy will pander to anyone. Anyone. So,
I love you too,
anyways.
buddy.
What's funny is there are some new people who join in, and they legitimately sometimes are like, man, these guys just really go at each other. Folks, come on. We're almost 4 years in the making.
How long have you and I known each other? It's been at least a decade.
Like
we go back a little.
Feels
ways.
like 8 decades.
It does. That's
yeah. I don't know. All right, we're done here.
We are done. We're gonna come back with more tomorrow, one way or the other at some time. Hit the subscribe button. That is free. Enable your notifications. That is free. We got football stuff. We got no baseball content this week. We're taking a break from that. We do a weekly SEC baseball show if you want to follow that in the off season. And then when the season gets here, we'll be on that just like we are basketball. Hit the subscribe button. We are your one-stop shop for SEC football, basketball, and baseball, and we try to have a lot of fun with it. Hope you had fun too. If you did, leave us a like and a nice comment. For Max Barr and Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16, presented by BetOnline.